Colorado River is one of the great water resources of the world. The rapids swirl and foam around boulders as big as cars. Eventually, the river winds through narrow canyons and will quench the thirst of over 25 million people. There are 22 water storage reservoirs in the Colorado River Basin, and one of the largest is Lake Powell, created by the Glen Canyon Dam. Downstream, the river snakes through the Grand Canyon, carving solid rock cliffs over 2 miles high. Then, for 293 miles, it flows uninterrupted before reaching Hoover Dam. This is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Beautiful? Yes. You can't tell with a casual glance that this is also one of the most intensely managed places in the world as well. Power companies, farmers, Native American tribes, recreationists, and water companies are just a few of the stakeholders with an interest in this river. Right there among them is the Arizona Game and Fish Department, responsible for protecting and conserving the wildlife in the river, a task that is very difficult even with modern equipment. To understand some of the difficulty, we have to look under the turbid flows and find a certain fish native to the Colorado River, the humpback chub. Its name comes from that large hump behind its head. By understanding this chub, we can begin to see the issues inherent with managing wildlife in the Grand Canyon. Actually a member of the minnow family, the humpback chub thrived in the canyon in the days before the dams were built. Back then, the river swelled in the spring with snowmelt from the Rocky Mountains, transporting large quantities of sediment-rich, ice-cold water into the canyon. Then, almost overnight, things changed. The dams were built and the river was tamed. The deep basins behind the dams trapped the snowmelt and formed enormous lakes. The river still flowed through the canyons, but it had been throttled, controlled, managed. No longer were there big flooding events. No longer did the river run wild. This change had a profound effect on the canyons downstream, an effect that is still being felt today. Bruce Taubert is our man at the Arizona Game and Fish Department who deals with a lot of these issues.
It's incredible when you put the size of dam that Glen Canyon Dam is and you change the water from one that used to be, as I indicated, high flows in the spring, low flows in the summer, very, very cloudy with turbulence with all the soil that it brought down from the Rocky Mountains with the spring runoff when the snow melts, to one that is cold all the time, is clear all the time, and doesn't fluctuate very much at all. For wildlife and the biological resource, that's really a night and a day situation. It's changed so dramatically that, yeah, I'm almost always amazed that they've done as well as they have, and that we actually have a resource out there to work with and attempt to save in the future.
One species that has done well in this new post-dam habitat is the rainbow trout. Just below Glen Canyon Dam is an area known worldwide for its trout fishing, Lee's Ferry.
Over about a 20-year period, what the administrators and biologists have done is we basically said that those 16 miles below Glen Canyon Dam are going to be managed for rainbow trout fishery. In fact, it's a world-class rainbow trout fishery. It's a wonderful place to go and fish for trout. The rest of the river, really, which is almost 200 miles, is going to be managed primarily for the humpback chub. What we're trying to do is provide all those resources for all the customers, maintaining a good fishery and maintaining sound populations of humpback chub. It's not that easy, but that's what we're working on right here.
Although rainbow trout are not native, they are fun to catch and a great tasting fish, and the public wants them in the Grand Canyon for the recreational opportunities. But Lee's Ferry is not a good area for the humpback chub. The good news is the humpbacks have managed to hold on further downstream, far away in a special spot where the Little Colorado River joins the main Colorado River.
As far as we know, this is the only good spawning area for humpback chub in the lower basin, below Glen Canyon Dam. There are other populations of humpback chub above Glen Canyon Dam, but there aren't any below Glen Canyon Dam. This is the primary place that we know that they do spawn, and we know that they spawn successfully, or reproduce successfully.
And so, therein lies a dilemma. The problem with maintaining a native wildlife population like the humpback chub with the demands of a modern society for water, electricity, and recreation, for recreational fishing opportunities with the rainbow trout. The trout and the chub may not be able to exist side by side on their own, but the demands of our society dictate that they must. And so, this is a story of how the Arizona Game and Fish Department makes that happen. Scott Rogers, a game and fish biologist, is leading a crew through the canyon. Part of their mission is to monitor just how far downstream from Lee's Ferry the rainbow trout are roaming, and to keep those trout away from the humpback chub where the Little Colorado meets. In theory, this all sounds well enough, but in reality it's a very tough job. The biologists climb aboard these small Zodiac boats. Each one has been modified with an electric generator wired up to this metal globe. Once they are underway, the globe is lowered to the water, sending out pulses of electricity around the boat. Any fish nearby is stunned, and the biologists quickly net them and pull them on board for identification. On some trips, the trout are removed permanently. They stop frequently to catalog and identify their catch. This is tough work. It's noisy with the generators, and in spots the currents can be very fast. The sampling goes on well into the night, ending about 1 a.m. This is just part of the process, though. Another crew is sampling the chub a little further downstream. This has to be one of the most beautiful spots in the Grand Canyon. It's the Little Colorado River, a tributary of rich blue water that eventually joins the main Colorado River. It's one of the last places on Earth where the humpback chub can be found in abundance. It's here that Bill Persons with the Arizona Game and Fish Department is directing a crew with the responsibility of monitoring the population of native humpback chub. Crews set up these long hoop nets in the water. The fish swim inside, seeing them as a place of refuge. Every day, the crews check the nets and see what has shown up. Fish are identified, measured, and then released unharmed. The adult humpbacks are fitted with these small devices called a pit tag. It assigns an electronic ID to each individual fish. Then they can be tracked in a database, giving scientists a wealth of information about the population over time. So far, so good. They are finding chubs in the nets, but in the back of every biologist's mind is a nagging worry. A worry that with such a small area for the chub and the potential of invasion from a whole host of predators, not to mention disease, numbers in this population could nosedive in a very short time. But it's a reality that each biologist has to live with in our modern world. Some people advocate removing the dam and returning the river to where it was decades ago. But what about the millions of people depending on the water and electricity the dam provides? It's a complicated question with no easy answers. For the biologists at the Arizona Game and Fish Department, though, the work will continue, maintaining a balance between the rights of an ancient native population to survive and the needs of a modern society to flourish.